Chapter 2. Rocco. Is that you? Ow! Abel! That's my foot! Kane yanked his foot out from beneath Abel, causing him to lose his balance and fall forward flat on his face. Abel grumbled out a string of colorful words, pushing himself back up into a sitting position. And that was my whole body, Kane! He sat upright, brushing dirt off his face and shirt. Face it, we aren't going to find Rocco. Let's just go back to the festival. There was a pause, and Abel heard his brother sigh through the darkness. But it has to be here, he trailed off. Abel frowned, feeling a little bad. He didn't understand why his brother wanted this so desperately, but he didn't have the heart to shut him down. He sighed too and got up. Let's look a little longer. Maybe we'll find something. There was a pause before Kane replied. Wait, I think I already did. You see that orange glowy thing up there? Abel squinted through the dark, already seeing spots of all colors as his eyes still struggled to adjust. He closed his eyes tightly and then tried to relax when he opened them again, and he looked ahead. If he wasn't mistaken, there were indeed faint glowing orange orbs in the distance. Abel couldn't help but feel disappointment clump together in his stomach, feeling like a big rock. Well, let's go, I guess. They trudged closer to the specks of light. Abel had to tip his head skyward to look at them the nearer they got, and right as he wondered how they were supposed to reach that, his foot hit something solid, sending him stumbling forward again. He blindly threw his hands in front of him to break his fall, and he crumpled on an incline. He paused, taking a moment to regroup, and realized he stumbled up a staircase. Stairs. Watch your step, he said, grumbling as he pushed himself up, hand searching for the railing so he could navigate. I don't get why there's no light down here, Kane said, his footsteps shuffling awkwardly while he tried to find his footing. Yeah, it's almost like we're getting pranked or something, Abel said sarcastically. Kane ignored his remark, and they both made their way cautiously up the stairs until they reached the top. The orange orbs turned out to be dancing around a glowing sign on the building door, declaring that it was open. Abel fumbled for the door handle, his fingers finally meeting the cold steel. It was rough, as though it had been long rusted, not giving him much hope for this place being inhabited. But, to his surprise and dismay, he pulled the door open and was met with a warm, brightly colored room. Well, aside from the black charcoal-colored walls, but they were mostly adorned with red decor, and the floor was an almost golden color of linoleum. They both stepped inside the large room, and sitting at the desk at the opposite end was another person in robes similar to the lady with the peacock mask, except this one wore shades of dark brown and a god-awful mask that almost sent Abel running right back out the door. The silver mask glinted under the yellow lights, each spike, horn, and tooth glittered menacingly. The eye sockets and mouth were black pits, empty and revealing nothing. Abel was sure this would appear in his nightmares now. The figure didn't even acknowledge their presence, lifting a mug to their mask, spilling the contents down their robe, something which they also paid no mind to. They set the mug back on the desk, and as they got closer, Abel saw that the mug read, I hate my job. Oh hey, you're dressed like that other lady in the alleyway, Kane says, trying to sound friendly. I would never be caught in a mask so colorful, the secretary stated, sounding annoyed. What do you two want? Abel couldn't tell the gender of this person? Creature. Entity. The voice was deep, but almost feminine, and the robes hid their figure entirely. We wanted to apply for those Reaper jobs. Is this the place? Obviously. Didn't you see the great big sign out front? Apply here for Reaper jobs, it says in big, bold letters. Have you been outside lately? We couldn't even see the building, let alone signs attached to it, Abel said. The secretary began grumbling under their breath about how these damn kids these days, they act like they can't even see in the dark. Back in my day, everyone could. They shuffled through multiple stacks of paper on their desk until they found what they needed. They clipped the papers to 2 different clipboards and shoved it into Kane and Abel's arms. Thanks for applying at Rockco. Your willingness to offer eternal servitude is appreciated. They recited in a monotone. Fill them out, throw them in the chute labeled applications, and if you're accepted, the elevator doors will open. You got all that? It was the first time Abel noticed the elevator door to their left. The elevator was made of the same charcoal as the walls, but a huge tacky skull was painted on the front. But that was only an afterthought. Something more important stood out to him. Hold up. Eternal servitude? Kane put an arm around his shoulders, turning him away from the secretary. Let's not piss them off, man. They look like they're about to lunge across the desk, he whispered. Abel shrugged him off, reluctantly walking to the short, uncomfortable-looking chairs. Don't you think this requires a little more thought? He said to Kane. Eternal servitude. He enunciated each syllable, looking into his brother's eyes sternly. Let that sink in. What if we hate it? Kane smiled. Relax, I'll make sure it stays fun. That doesn't reassure me. You are insufferable. Abel dropped into one of the chairs, miscalculating how short they actually were, and fell into the seat like a rag doll, limbs flailing and all. Kane covered his mouth, trying to muffle his laughter. Shut the hell up and fill out your stupid application, he said, glad there was no blood in his undead veins, otherwise he would have been beet red from embarrassment. Kane sat down slower so he didn't make the same mistake as his brother, and they filled out their applications in relative silence. The application was as tacky as the poster, and even this room. There was yet another skeleton in a robe on this one, with a little speech bubble that said, Ready to reap? More like he was ready to weep. Abel rubbed his eyes, unable to fathom why they used skeletons for their Reaper ads in the first place. Everyone knew skeletons were partyaholics, and generally known for their stupid, reckless behavior. If they were any kid in the class, they'd be the one wearing a dunce cap and eating paste. But instead, they somehow got this badass label, and they are basically the face of many realms in the outer world. He shook his head. He'd be here all day if he tried to make sense of nonsense. But even the questions left him wanting to claw his own eyes out. Do you think Reaper cloaks are cool? Explain why or why not. Leave compliments about skeletons here. Did a damn skeleton write up this application too? Whoever was in charge of this business must be an utter moron. Abel sloppily filled out his application, thoroughly expressing his disdain for skeletons, and stood up to chuck it in the chute. Wait, I'm almost done, Kane said, his pen scratching quickly to finish up the last question. Abel held his clipboard close to his chest, drumming his fingers rhythmically against the back of it. Kane's pen slowed, tapping the paper with the tip of the pen while he thought about something. Tap, tap, tap. Oh my God! Could you go any slower? Chill, we have an eternity, Kane said, writing slowly, the ghost of a smirk on his face. Well, I'm signing up for it without you. Abel turned, striding over to the chute. His brother darted in front of him, dropping his application in first, clipboard and all, which the secretary did not appreciate as she started shouting curses at both of them for losing her clipboard. Abel unclipped his application and threw it down the chute, chucking the clipboard on the desk, hoping to God the elevator would open soon so they could escape. For once, the universe took pity on him, and they didn't have to stick around for the secretary's whole rant. The elevator doors opened slowly, and with a screeching sound akin to nails on chalkboard. Abel didn't care, though, and scrambled inside with his brother. The only button was a big red down one, so Kane tapped it repeatedly until the doors closed, the secretary at the entrance still chewing them out as the doors mercifully shut. Aside from the faint screeching sounds of the elevator, they rode it in silence for a moment, still stiff from their narrow escape. You think they would have tried to kill us? Kane asked. They'd stab us with a pen, at least. Repent! Kane mimed stabbing motions with his hand and made fake screaming noises. Abel chuckled. Reaping us before our time. And all over a clipboard. Without warning, the elevator jostled and clunked, nearly shaking the two of them off their feet until it made its final crunch as it settled into the ground. The gears or whatever moved, this thing wheezed like an old man, finally falling still and silent. After a few seconds, the speaker made a pleasant ping sound, followed by a grumbly voice that said, "You've reached your floor. Now get out." And the doors rolled open slowly, creaking painfully the whole time. The doors looked like they led out into a foggy night, no indication that anyone or anything laid beyond the door. This was seeming more and more like an elaborate prank to Abel, who hesitated to cross over the threshold. It's not like he really had much of a choice anymore, considering there was no up button on the elevator. "Come on, we made it past the dragon. The rest of this Reaper gig will be a piece of cake," Kane encouraged him, grinning. Abel felt nothing but apprehension, but shrugged, trying not to be a killjoy. "I guess you're right." "That's the spirit. You ready to start our next adventure?" "No, not at all." "Yeah, as ready as I'll ever be." Together, they faced the darkness and walked through the door. God, please let this be a prank.